Hi all, today I'm talking about falling in love, divine, masculine and feminine, and how the Matrix has used this to keep us even more stuck. Okay, so firstly, falling in love. Falling in love, according to M. Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled, is the collapse of ego boundaries. So in other words, if you're sexually attracted to somebody, it's not just about the physical, right? It's about more than the physical. So then there's a collapse of ego boundaries. And what that means is you project the most beautiful part of yourself onto that person, and that person projects the most beautiful part of themselves onto you. And then obviously this needs to be a person that can carry that projection, right? Even if it is just for a little while, which means that there has to be something within that person that is indeed similar to what you are projecting. The problem with this is when the being in love phase is over, then usually these projections are pulled back. The beautiful part of the projection is pulled back, and then you can see the real person. And then it's up to you to decide whether you're now going to love each other in the real sense of the word, because remember, love is a verb, right? It's a do word, or whether you're going to be moving on. And unfortunately in our society, if you watch movies, as well as if you talk to most people, unfortunately, people move on at this point. So I also want to talk about the fact that there is a massive difference between emotional dependency and love. And to me, this was a veritable revelation when I was 27. You know, when you tell somebody you should really leave that person, and then they say, oh no, but I can't because I love them so much. And then if you inquire further, you know, what do you mean you love them? I can't live without them. Now, I can't live without somebody is an abandonment of self, right? It's an abandonment of self, and you cannot have love without self-love. And unfortunately, due to trauma and due to people not maybe receiving the love that they had to get when in their childhood, they look for this in their adult lives. And then this actually becomes a way to just soothe your inner wounding instead of growing. But there is a deeper aspect to falling in love that's quite very interesting. And this is that the soul, because we all come from one source initially, and that source divided into all of us, right? And then the ego was created. We've got this deep, deep, deep inner wound, and we long for union. And when you fall in love, you feel that sense of union for a short little time. But this fracture that was created then means that the psyche wants to grow. It wants to fix the sides of you that you have not integrated, that you have not seen. So you'll always be in love with somebody that has aspects within them that you are denying within yourself. And this is, who was it that said, now bad of me that I can't remember, I think it was Jung, or it might have been Hermann Hesse, that said, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, if something irritates us in somebody else, that is actually within ourselves. If it wasn't within ourselves, it wouldn't irritate us within somebody else. So the mirror is not always as direct, right? If you're with an abusive person, it doesn't mean that you yourself are abusive, but it could mean that you are abusing yourself, right? You might be masochistic. So you might be the polar opposite to that mirror, but it means the shadow is within you. And this is why relationships actually, if they're done correctly, can lead to a lot of alchemy and a lot of change and a lot of healing. But unfortunately, this has not been the case. And this has not been the case because the matrix, you know, the fact that we're in a matrix and that we're being programmed has messed with us. So how have we been messed with? Firstly, if you look at romantic comedies, they're a bit ridiculous, really, because they always end where the people just end up together, right? They don't go into the real love part, so they're just still in the honeymoon phase, and they don't really look at the fact that emotional dependence is really unhealthy, that people should live their own lives. Like Khalil Gibran says, you know, there should be spaces in your togetherness Also, I think with a lot of trauma and suppression of the masculine aspects, people have trauma in their households. It's very important. The family unit is extremely important for a child in the first 6 years of his or her life. It is so important to be emotionally as well as physically safe. And unfortunately, we have children raising children. So in the first 6 years of our lives, people either experience abandonment or they experience being smothered, right? And this then gets carried on further into their life. So in psychology, there is this concept of your angel and your demon. So let me explain. Let's say you have a mother that's an alcoholic and she doesn't pitch up for school, and it's now, let's say, 1:30, and all of your friends have already gone home, and your mother still hasn't come to pick you up for school, and you feel really embarrassed and you feel really lonely, and it's getting cold, and you're looking around, and this is really, really traumatic, right? Second day, same thing. Third day, same thing. Fourth day, what happens is you might think, oh, well, dinner's to this woman. I'm going to bring pen and paper and a few cookies to school, and then I'm going to sit and I'm going to draw after school until she comes to fetch me. Now, this is your angel. The problem is later in your life, this then becomes your demon. Because later in your life, when you have somebody that actually pitches up consistently and they are there for you, your psyche has taught itself that, you can't trust people, you can't let them in. You're probably overabsorbed with your art because that was your angel, right? And then you have to revise your map. This is also from the Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. You have to revise your map in order to actually let somebody in. So we have many angels and many demons. And the demons or the angels that saved us in our childhood becomes the demons that prevent us from true love in our adulthood. And this requires vulnerability. This requires seeing yourself, questioning yourself, doing introspection, also doing mirror work, looking at what in this other person is irritating me and why am I attracted to it, right? What is it in me that needs healing? But the most important thing would be self-love. And if you also look at the divine feminine and the divine masculine aspects. So I'm very interested in the concept of hypernorms. So hypernorm is almost like an egregore. So an egregore is a thought system that almost becomes alive. A hypernorm is a main philosophy that takes precedence over other philosophies. And in a society, this then becomes the ruling idea that creates all of the ideas that people follow. So to give you an example, in the apartheid years, we had ethno-nationalism as the hypernorm, and that actually became really twisted, right? Because the church was subservient to that, capitalism was subservient to that, and yeah, not a good thing. So a hypernorm might start out, like, oh, okay, just separate development, nationalism, whatever, and then it becomes really, really creepy. Then after that, we had the hypernorm of transformation. So I'm talking specifically about South Africa here, right? And everyone was happy, Rainbow Nation, beautiful, la, la, la. But within a while, a hypernorm will always get twisted because it's not being questioned. So we all know what then happened to open-mindedness actually changed to tyranny, because now you can, transition a child, and if you don't do it in Canada, you can actually lose your child. So what has happened to, accepting your body? It's absolutely bizarre. And if you don't agree with it, then you are a bad person. So the interesting thing about the current hypernorm, okay, but anyway, so then after transformation, we went into health and safety with lockdown. And if you look at the history, health and safety is the most dangerous hypernorm in existence. It was in control in the Second World War. So if you want to look up egregores or hypernorms, please look at the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeeland. It's absolutely freaking amazing. So this is the problem. The current hypernorm, like remember, hypernorms are also controlled. So the archons who are in control of this matrix, they don't care what we believe, as long as it becomes twisted and it keeps us from finding ourselves. And one way in which we can not find ourselves is if we only look for ourselves in another, because we forget that we're all one. We forget that this is a projected reality, that it is a holographic universe, and therefore we step outside of our power. We build our houses in other people instead of building them in ourselves. So the divine masculine and feminine, which would be archetypes, right? So Jung spoke about the anima and the animus. So the anima is the masculine aspects within a man's psyche that he has to integrate and cultivate, and the anima is the feminine aspects within the female psyche that she has to integrate and elevate, right? Now, what has happened in our society is the sexes have been put against each other, right? They're actually put against each other. I'm not a very big fan of feminism. I'm not going to get flack for saying this, but feminism really has not focused on female energy, what the woman can do. It just said women can do what men can do, instead of saying what women can do, what men cannot do, right? So I believe that it is the job of the masculine to project, listen to me, to protect the feminine within the material world, and it is the job of the feminine to protect the man within the spiritual, emotional world. So what do I say, or what do I mean when I say this? I think men are physically stronger than women, definitely, and able to really graft, within the material world, which makes them very strong and very grounded. But when it comes to emotional capacity, they don't have the same emotional capacity as females. Women definitely needed more emotional capacity as we were evolving as a species, because we had to look at the vulnerable children. And the feminine is the magical principle, right? It's matter, it's material, it's emotion, it's fire, it's emotional intelligence, it's kindness, it's compassion, it's higher thinking. So the wonderful thing about this is you can see it in fantasy. The Wheel of Time actually shows this very, very beautifully. So the matrix has been messed with, right? Absolutely messed with, and pitted the sexes against each other. And how can we come over this, get over this? So firstly, realize that this is happening. Don't allow yourself to be pitted against the other sex, because that's blanket statements, right? That's blanket statements. Not all women are bad, not all men are bad. Then secondly, when you fall in love, realize that it is the collapse of ego boundaries, and that your psyche wants to heal itself. And healing itself means that you have to love yourself first, right? So if you're building your house outside of yourself, pull it back in. Don't lose your life to another. Have spaces. Also know that whatever irritates you in that person is within you in some way. Please go look at Byron Katie again with regards to this, and then go look at Jung's anima and animus. It's really amazing. If you're a guy, you can go Google how to integrate the anima, and if you're a girl, you can go Google how to integrate the animus. So yeah, within love, always remember that you have to love yourself first. You have to have your own life, and that we are in love with that which can heal us. And sometimes when we're still very wounded, we are in love with that which can hurt us the very most. And this is the psyche's way of healing itself, and to always walk away when you realize that you've lost your center and you're living through another person's eyes instead of your own. I hope this helps, guys. Have a lovely day.